Thank you, Remy B75. Hello. Can anybody hear me? Right. So something's not working because I can see it's picking me talking, but I can't hear anyone. So let's see what the problem is.
Yes.
I'm hearing you.
That worked. Hello. Oh, this should be interesting. Not done one of these before. Hopefully, I'm not sure how big I need to make the text for you to be able to read it. So we'll see how we get on. Right. Let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there were 9 saying they were attending and 1 dropped out, so that makes it 8. But let's just check. Otherwise, don't want to start before. Don't want to start too soon, but yeah, 9 booked, and we've got, so 1's missing, but I think we can get going in shortly. How is everybody? And where are you from?
I'm from Cornwall. Not really.
Yeah, no, I bet you. I know about you.
I'm out of Columbus, Ohio, in the States.
Oh, it's nice and early for you, I hope. Well, mid-afternoon, I suspect, isn't it?
Yep, it's 3:30 in the afternoon, so not a bad time.
Not a bad time.
I might be working at the same time, but I am curious about how this thing goes.
That should be fine. No worries.
I'm in New Hampshire, same time zone.
Well, thank you, New Hampshire and Ohio. I know Lone Wolf's lurking in the background there. Yeah, I know where he's from, so. Right. Well, welcome one and all to what I hope is a organised and not too disastrous guide to creating content using Savage Worlds Enhanced Library and SW Maker. I actually managed to make some notes, and we'll see how we do on that. Any questions, please feel free to ask at any time. I have no idea how long this will actually last. We shall see. And how well it works and how many crashes we get and errors, we shall all learn together. But hopefully by the end of it you'll have something productive. So first things first, I think what we need to talk about is compatibility. Officially speaking, the Savage Worlds Enhanced Library, or SWEL, is not supported on Fantasy Grounds Unity. It works, I gather. I've never done it, but it's not officially supported. The reason for that is actually to do with incompatibility issues between Fantasy Grounds Classic and Fantasy Grounds Unity. So if you are planning at any time in the future to make, for the foreseeable future, there will be a point when it won't matter anymore, but if you are planning to make modules that you want to sell commercially, you technically have to create them in Fantasy Grounds Classic, because then they will be compatible with Fantasy Grounds Classic and Fantasy Grounds Unity. If you use the SWEL library only in Fantasy Grounds Unity, it will only work in Fantasy Grounds Unity. So if you're making it for yourself, it doesn't matter what you're doing. But if you're planning to make commercial stuff until SmiteWorks, say Fantasy Grounds Classic is going away, you technically have to use Fantasy Grounds Classic to create the modules, which is a bit of a problem, of course, if you haven't got it. But obviously, there you go. But like I say, if you're making them for yourself for personal use or anything else, then obviously you can use it in Fantasy Grounds Unity. What the actual implications and issues are, I don't know. But basically, Akil, who wrote the enhanced library, basically decided that he's only going to support it in one, and that's the one that he has to use it in, which is Classic. So I'm afraid that's that. Tools wise, well, what do you need? Well, Fantasy Grounds Classic or Unity, as we've just said. Notepad++, which is something I used to use quite a lot until very recently. Now I use Sublime Text or any other text editor, obviously, if you've got your own favourite. Obviously, assuming you're going to be taking stuff from PDF, which is what I normally do, you'll need some form of PDF reader as well. Nice to have. Word processing software. I use Microsoft Word, but obviously there are other ones out there. Word has some very nice things that let you do some very advanced stuff that I won't be covering today using regex. I know LibreOffice, I don't think lets you get away with some of the advanced macros that I use to really speed up the process, but we won't, as I say, we won't go into those today. Adobe Photoshop, GIMP, or any other tool that lets you just pull the graphics out of the PDFs. If you can actually get them, there's nothing to stop you just screen grabbing them, but obviously if you can actually extract them, you'll get the original quality and stuff like that. Or again, obviously, if you're doing it for a commercial purpose, then sometimes you will get the original artwork sent to you by the publishers. But that's pretty much the absolute basics. So first thing you really need to do, and I gather some of this was covered in the 101, but I suspect you guys already know that. First thing you want to do is, when you're creating content, is you want to create a dedicated campaign, and you want unless you're sort of doing multiple ones together, you want a single campaign for each project. And obviously, I'm not, you literally, not going to teach you to suck eggs here, but you literally go through, you give it a meaningful name. If it's going to use any, if you're making it for a specific setting, load the extensions that setting uses. Trust me, it saves some time sometimes. Obviously, you make sure you turn on the enhanced library. Another one I like to use sometimes is the Core RPG table imports. Very useful if you've got lots of tables to do. Again, not necessarily. And the only other one you need, really, I find, is SW Maker. As I say, then obviously themes you don't really need to worry about, but I usually turn them on if I'm thinking about it. But if there's extension settings specific, so for Weird's West or anything like that, you want to load those in. And obviously then you'll create the campaign. I've already done one earlier because my Fantasy Grounds Classic's getting slower and slower, and if anyone's wondering, I deliberately didn't update Classic, so I never lost my lovely pretty sidebar. That will give me problems one day. But anyway, so that's pretty much the straightforward thing there. The other trick to remember when you're using the Savage Worlds Enhanced Library, if you're using the markup code, which is what we'll mainly be covering today, is it's very important that you don't lose this campaign, especially if you ever want to go back and edit it. If you do, then it's not the end of the world. As long as you've still got the SWEL file or the text file, you've got all the hard work. But the problem is when you want to link in all the images and everything, that will break, and then you'll have to go through it all and do a lot of tweaks. So again, this is something on the commercial side, as it were. When we're uploading stuff to SmiteWorks, there is an actual folder where we pop our campaign file. So even if something happens, someone else can recompile it from the source files. So that's fine. Let me see. Core RPG conversion checker. Oh yeah, that's an extension I didn't bother loading on this one. That one you won't need to worry about, again, unless you're making a commercial module, and that's something that SmiteWorks will add to your account, so it will basically be downloaded. I don't know any way to get that without SmiteWorks letting you have it. What it lets you do is basically run checking tools, and it'll print out some errors and tell you what you need to fix. But Enhanced Library does the same thing. Okay, the next thing you're going to do, after you've got the campaign up and going, and this one's very important for all the linking, is make sure you load in the modules you need. I'm only going to be just worrying about Sway today, so I just want to make sure you got the modules loaded, because that means all the edges, all the powers, and everything else that's in the core rule set or Hellfrost or any of the other extensions, they're all there. So when you start importing NPCs later, it will link to these modules and save you a lot of work. And last but no means least, under the options, if you just want to come all the way down to the bottom here and turn on the desktop content importer tools. Very useful little tool, that one. And then you're ready to go. So are there any questions yet?
Do you want us to do this along with you?
It's really up to you. By all means, if you want to, by all means. Obviously, it's up to you. And as I say, please let me know if I'm going too fast. Please let me know if you don't understand anything, and anytime ask questions. But in the meantime, we'll carry on. So, what I've decided, I thought the best way to go about this is with a practical example. So I had to trawl through all my Jumpstart documents, and I found a nice small one, a nice 6-page Savage Thunderscape World of Aiden. I have to be honest, I've not really read it. I'm sure it's very interesting. I do believe it's originally a D20 Pathfinder setting or something. But anyway, it's a nice 6-pager. It's got some nice pretty graphics. It's got some NPCs in it. I think it's got some equipment. I don't know if it's got any edges or hindrances, but we can make some up for that. I figured it was a nice straightforward one to what we use. So basically speaking, the first thing you want to do is, the other thing is, of course, is check. The first thing you want to do actually is have a look at the properties of the document when you've got it. So on the security tab, you want to make, hopefully it won't be locked down. If it is, then you may find things a little more tricky and you won't be able to do it the nice easy way. Worst case, you'll be having to you might have to manually, this is how I used to have to do it, manually select the text, copy it and paste it and all that. But if you can get away with it and it's a nice unlocked document, what I tend to do is I literally just go select all and then pick copy with formatting, which usually gets you the extra fonts. And this is using Adobe. Again, if you can't do that, just straightforward copy. It will take a little while with the formatting, so here's one I prepared earlier. So basically all I've got here is, and I've just literally copied all that into clipboard and just pasted that into Word. So we've got a nice straightforward document there, which is the pure text of what we had. So that's good. Yep, open PDF, and so okay. So that gets you the text. Then what I also can do is get the graphics out. Now, as I say, I've got Photoshop and Adobe, which makes life a lot easier for me. Worst case, you can literally just go around clicking on each image and copying it out. But
I've got a thing that you type a command on, it extracts all the images.
yeah, I used to use that XPDF or something. I had something similar, but as I say, these days I'm quite lazy. So where did I put it? Systems, Savage Worlds. I must have closed the folder down earlier. Settings? No. Jumpstarts. Bungled 4 was it in? Yeah, there it is. So one thing that's quite nice with Adobe is you could literally just bung it in, and I literally go through and I'll just pick up all the images and say okay. It'll just extract them all out, and then what I will do is I will save them to a PSD, which I haven't done yet. Oh yeah, I have. They're just not in the right spot. That's absolutely, hang on, that's not right. I'll get rid of that. So I've already saved them out. I forgot I had, which makes life a bit easier. And the only other trick I heartily recommend, especially since Windows 10 does some very funny things these days, is obviously I'm just creating a shortcut back to the images folder for the campaign. So that should get me That gets me the images in, which is fine. So we extracted the artwork, we've extracted the text. Let's see what we need to prepare it. Okay, I'm going to turn on that. And basically speaking, you want to go through it. I'm not going to worry too much about it because we'll just do it. And first thing you want to do is make it into a nice standard format. And the other thing I find you normally want to do is make all the text the same colour, because sometimes you'll find there'll be text that's disappeared and stuff, and we're off to a good start there. So then we can have a look at that. Yeah, that's fine. What else? I'm just trying to think what I said here. Change the font, set the text colour, tidy up, text edit, copy paste. Right, so this is going to go fast. Well, it won't go fast because we'll be doing a fair bit. I'm paranoid. So once we've got all the text in here, we can see here we've got some interesting formatting with the tabs and stuff, and you can see you've got the fonts and everything. So if we're really lucky and we know everything's the same size, this is something that Word does rather well. I'm not sure it does so well with the others. So what we want to really do is tidy this up a bit more, and we can go through the whole thing working out the sizes of the fonts and everything, and we can literally start removing all the funny stuff. It is P, isn't it? Yep. And we're going to replace that with another. I won't worry too much about this because this is sort of more the advanced things, but just to give you an idea of what level you can get to. So that is 32 Arial, I do believe. Arial, regular 32 point. Long one. Format font 9 point, that should have been. That should have been the Arial 32. Like so, and literally then it will literally go through and it will get rid of all these funny large ones. It makes it easier when you're doing some of the formatting later on. So that's Arial 10. Can speed things up, so we'll just do that one as well. 13 of those. What else we got? We've got 11.5 really funny sizes in this document. Okay, 11.5. Place all on that. Yep. I've never seen one with so many different sizes. Replace all. Arial 14. Format font. No, that one. Yep. Format font 14. And the reason you would do this normally is because if you really start being clever, you can start sort of getting it to do stuff based on font sizes and stuff, which is what we're going to do with the fonts and with bold, and try and get it to do all the bolding for us. 14 again. Format font. I have never seen one with so many different font sizes. Right. Hopefully that's all of them down. Yep. Okay. So next thing we want to do is, again, this is all about just making life easier later on. We want to get rid of any extra formatting on the carriage returns if they're bolded or italicized. So that gets rid of all that. It makes life easier when you're doing the find and replacing them with some of the markup. It saves you having to go all the way through the document manually, marking up what's bold and what's formatted. So hopefully that's got all of that. And then last but no means least, what we should be able to do, if I can remember the exact way to do it, we want to say no formatting. We'll go format font, Arial, bold, 9, and we want to make that asterisk, asterisk. I think it's that. It's a while since I've done this one. And let's try a find next and see what we get. Let's try that again. Find next. There we go. Replace. Yeah, that did it. So basically, this is where the regex comes in. What we're saying is any text that's Arial 9 bold, keep the text but put the asterisks around it. So what this will do is this will basically go through the entire document and find anything that's bold and mark it up bold automatically, so I don't have to sit there and do that later on manually. And we'll do the same thing again with italics.
That is a very handy tip. All the stuff I've done, I've had to just put those markups on it and
Yes.
check back to make sure I got them right.
Exactly.
What are you using? What are you using for that? Something in Word or a separate thing?
This is built into Word, and I happen to know that I've forgotten Talon. He does a fair bit of the. Well, he was doing the Castles and Crusades, and he did Dan's Noir a couple of times. He has sent me a document because he's using LibreOffice, and this particular trick with the regex doesn't work for him. So which is a bit unfortunate. But anyway.
And that puts it in the format that Fantasy Grounds agrees with. Like,
yes, I will cover it a bit later on. But yes, so basically, if you in the markup language, 2 asterisks is bold, 2 backslashes is italics. So the other one that I very rarely find is underline. So we do that. Do replace all. It didn't find any. So basically, anything that was standard text and bolded, or standard text and italics, should now go straight in with that, so you don't have to go through the entire document doing that. Doesn't always work, doesn't always copy it, unfortunately, but that should be okay. Then what I'm going to do is decide something that's going to be headers, and I'm going to decide that it's going to be Arial 12 point. That's just an arbitrary thing. So we'll just go in here again and go font format, Arial point, Arial 12, and we're going to say keep the text but put 2 hashes in front of it, which will basically turn it into the header text format. I can't, is that Control 2 in normal editor? I can't remember. Let's make sure that works. Yeah, let's make sure that works.
but this is the thing, that the markup for the Savage Worlds.
Yeah. Yes.
Library, not the normal Fantasy Grounds one, that.
Not the normal Fantasy Grounds, no. This is purely what you're going to do when you're using for the SWEL. Unfortunately, I don't know another way to do it with the other one. So, okay, that'll be. I think that's enough. I mean, you can, if you really start playing around with it, you can start getting some really interest. You can start being really clever, and start. Which I've got macros for, but as I say, they're a bit more convoluted, and it doesn't necessarily work on this one, where you can literally, using that trick of basically inserting around the text, putting in all these headings around stuff, but you really have to spend some time prepping the document, which is sort of further outside of what we're doing here. So the only thing I would say is, if you do this, you can't use the text in here for creating the NPCs, but that's what you've got the original PDF for. So we should be okay there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm literally going to copy the whole thing, and I'm going to pop it into a text editor. Now, a couple of things about text editors. Actually, I forgot to mention. I don't know if I've skipped it on my notes. Yes, I did. So as I say, you can use... I mean, obviously, use any text editor, but the Notepad++, what I used for many a year, has the advantage of being free and everything else, and fairly stable. I used to use it quite a lot when I was used to do all this by hand in XML, but the XML plugin broke a few years back, so that got upsetting. What you want to do once you get it in here into Notepad++, I would say, is you want to go into the language and set it to YAML. It will do some colouring and formatting. It will also do some nice indenting, and it will let you fold the text up once you start formatting it into markup. You don't have to do it that way, but it's a trick I found. If you're using Notepad++, set the language to YAML and save it as a YAML file, and off you go. Now, the reason I swapped over to Sublime, even though you have to pay for this one, was quite straightforward. And I did try and actually upload it to the classroom, but it wouldn't let me. There's a question on compatibility. I shall check that in a minute. I'll come back to that in a minute, Laser Gonzo. Sorry, I forgot to keep an eye on the text channel. Akil has made a syntax, I think is the correct terminology. Syntax for the markup language. So if you do have Sublime, or you do stump up I think it's $30 for it, you can import a dedicated markup syntax, which is what I'm using here, and it colours everything. And the reason I did end up paying for this is if you're using Notepad++, and there's nothing wrong with Notepad++, there are cases where you'll basically say, for argument's sake, you want www.peg.com. Let's make this bigger. It's probably a bit too small to see. You want to make this bold, which is 2 asterisks there, and then obviously you go to the other end, and that's another 2 asterisks there. That makes the whole thing bold. But you might forget to close the bolding off, and what then happens is it treats the rest of the document as bold, and it's quite annoying and a real pain in the bum to find, truth be told. Whereas if we come over to this one, of course I can't find where is that? This game references. Yeah, there it is. Whereas what I like about the Sublime version is if I do that, once I've set it to swell, actually. Yeah. So what happens is with the swell version is the second I turn the bold on, you can now see the whole document is pretty much gone yellow, which tells me that something's gone wrong, and and obviously you can even start tracking down where it's come to, and then obviously it's as I say, it's just saved me a few times when I've spent hours on it. But I'm not saying whether it's worth paying it or not. If you guys do have Sublime, and you want the syntax file, just let me know. Either on fancy, just let me know. I can get the file to you. I was trying to upload it to the classroom, but it wouldn't let me. But to add it in,
I uploaded my syntax file. It's at the bottom of the list of links I put.
Oh,
Looks
thank
like
you very
a
much.
text document.
Thank you very much.
But, we can get it from either one of us, either Savage Doswelk or myself.
Thank you. I just noticed it there. So to literally use it, all you're going to do is you go Tools, Developer, New Syntax. It opens up a window, and you will just copy and paste this text file in there, and then just save it. As simple as that. And then basically restart it, and basically it will add it down here, and I've called it swell, and off you go. Now, a question on compatibility. Sorry, Laser Gonzo, I didn't notice you'd asked this. Swell are made for classic, and the only way to use the commercial. Does that mean there's no way to do? No. People use it in Unity all the time.
It's caused a few bugs in Unity, that's all.
Yeah, there are known issues within Unity, but because Unity and Classic are subtly different, they're 99% compatible with each other. But there's no reason you can't use this in Unity. I don't know what the actual issues are, but I
can tell you what one of the issues is. If it's running, when you click on a link on a feet, or not a feet, an edge,
mm-hmm.
it creates a new edge instead of using the one that's there. As soon as you disable it, the edges work normally. But so it's something like it just interferes with the running of Fantasy Grounds. You can still export stuff perfectly, but
yeah. I was going to say, yeah, I mean, to be honest, the other trick I would say, yeah. So thank you for that. I didn't, as I say, it will work. There are some known gotchas, and as I say, at the moment, it's officially supported in Classic, but works in Unity with some minor headaches. But obviously, when Classic goes away, and Unity's the only one there, then obviously it'll be fixed, supposedly. But anyway. So what we're going to do now, so next part, so we got the text in, and now you're obviously going to make it pretty. So what have we got? The document header. Yes, okay. This is, you don't need to do this, but it's quite nice. You can see I've got one over here on the right hand side, so I'm literally just going to copy this in, because I started preparing this earlier. And you just put this at the very top of the document. And then obviously what you want to call it, name is going to be what shows up in the library down here. So Suede Player's Guide. Actually, where is that? I've got that here. So there you go. That is the actual markup for the Savage Worlds Player's Guide. So you can see when you look at it in the library, you see Suede Player Guide. So you can see there, that's the name, Suede Player Guide. So we shall call this one Savage. I've forgotten what the bloody Thunderscape. Okay, the category name. Category name, as you can see, is Savage Worlds, which obviously is the title there. So we'll just call this one Savage. Let's call it Savage Thunderscape Jumpstart, and then set the category to that. Export author. Well, that's literally the. I do believe. Where do you see that? I think you see that on the modules tab, don't you? Yeah. So author goes there. Usually these days it's mostly used for copyright, but obviously that can be the author. I don't think we've got any names here, so we'll just put a question mark because I'm not quite, this isn't going to be commercial. Okay, the export file name. This is the file name that will be created in your modules folder on Fantasy Grounds. So when I'm working on them, as a rule, I tend to put underscore at the front so I can find it easier. So we'll call this one Savage Thunderscape. So export is read only. So this is the straightforward one. If you open up the Android race, for example, if it's read only, the padlock can't be opened. It's as simple as that. So you can't edit it. So 0 makes it not read only. 1 makes it read only. Player visible. Is this to let players see it, or is this GM only? So obviously 0 is not player visible. 1 makes it player visible. And the export thumbnail, that is that pretty little picture there. The interesting thing about it, what I find is the trick on that one is the easiest way to do that is, if you're on Windows 10 at least, if we go to conversion work, Savage Worlds, Thunderscape, thumbnail. If you go into home, you can just literally click copy path. Does all the work for you. What then happens is there's your path. Now for the markup language, all you do is get rid of the quotes. That's all you need to do, and that basically sets up all the information you need there. So when I export this later on, we should see all that information. We'll see what happens. The lines of equal signs and minus signs, they don't actually do anything for the markup. It just makes life easier for ourselves. So it's sort of nice visual cue. You can see what's going on. Okay, so the next thing we've got to do.
Quick question for you.
Yes.
I'm sorry I missed. How did you bring up the Suede player guide to use as an example?
I just happen to have a copy of it.
Oh, I see. Okay, is there a template like that we can use ourselves to have?
Yeah, Christian Serrano, when he did the Eberron book, he released it for free as a SWEL file. I'll put a link in the Discord.
Great, thank you.
Likewise, and I use this quite a lot. If you click on Importer, Help, obviously it's not as good as a full manual, but obviously in here there is the cheat sheet which tells you everything, and I do use this quite a lot. One of the ones I find myself using a lot is the list of class names. I come back to these quite a lot, and the gear names. There is also there is a way to get up a demo, and I can't remember how it works now. Oh no, is it the ref menu? No, there is an actual. Is it? I can't remember how to do it now. Is it the question mark instead? Yes, the question mark instead. Sorry. So if you click on the question mark, you actually get an enhanced library. Obviously, nothing beats a proper markup. So there's the Eberron one. But on this enhanced library, again, you get another example of how it all works, and he literally starts explaining how to do it all using the module.
That Eberron one is on the forums, isn't it?
Yes, it is on the forums. So yes, yeah. So obviously this is my cheat sheet. But obviously, unfortunately, you guys won't get that. But the Eberron will do you just as good. Likewise, as I say, the help tab in here will give you the correct formatting for everything. But Plum me. Drunk too much too fast. Right, where were we? So, next thing's next. What we need to do is we need to give it. So if we go, I'm going to cheat and use that again. So if we go back to here, when we go into Savage Worlds Adventures Edition, I'm just trying to remember. Yeah, there we go. So basically, the markup saying, right, so we want to create the reference manual. You know, that lovely new thing that looks all really funky and gives you inline graphics and everything else, and is really nice, except for the times when it won't let you do something you want it to, like have two images side by side, or certain text blocks. But that's by the by. So we're basically going to kick that off. So the way to do that is 4 hashes. Marks it as interesting. It didn't. It's because I haven't got the colons in. 4 hashes is a header. So if we go a bit further down towards the bottom of this long document, so you can see what I mean by a header. It's a mark. It sort of tells the markup what you're creating. So you can see here we're creating race entries. These are racial abilities. We've got hindrances. You get the idea. Skills and everything. So. 4 markups, and we'll just go. So for this one, we're going to say, right, this is the reference manual section, and then 2 colons is the other format that you use, and then we're going to name it Savage Thunder Escape Jump Start. Probably should be one word. Likewise, you can give it so you. Savage Adventures. I'm trying to remember this myself. Yeah. So if I basically leave it at that, when you open up the window, that will be the title. But if you want it to have a different title on the header up there, then what he's done here, then this is the ref manual thing. And I have to be honest, I always forget that one exists, which is why I'm glad I'm copying this one. But anyway, Savage Thunderscape. I'll call it instead. Now, what else have I got on my basic sections? Yep, that's fine. So, and again, as I say, this is just a nice way of tidying it up, keeping things simple. So basically what we're going to do now is, I think I created a nice cover for it. Yes, I did. So I already had a thumbnail I created earlier, which was nice and small, so I'm just going to create a cover. So what we're going to do is we'll open this up. Size-wise, I don't think there's any real hard and fast rules. As a rule, I don't tend to... That was the wrong key. I don't tend to go any bigger than 1200 pixels. A lot of the time, I used to do 900, but at the end of the day, Fantasy Grounds will resize it, and people's resolutions going up. But this is the maximum size the window will be, and it's slightly different in Classic to the way it is in Unity, because Unity's got that nice zoom to fit, which Classic doesn't. But I'm just going to say we're going to say we'll call this 1000 pixels maximum height. Click OK. Obviously, that's going to resize it, and then obviously we'll save it. Now, I've got a plugin for Photoshop that basically lets me saves a JPEG and compresses it at the same time, as opposed to having to use a third-party tool. But there's nothing to stop you just saving them as as a normal JPEG. I've got a shortcut that's going to put it there, and I'm going to call this cover.jpg. And when we go to Fantasy Grounds now and go to Images, Uncategorized. Again, this will be subtly different in Unity. I imagine you're going to have to put them in, go into the assets, go into the campaign, and refresh all the time. But I'm sure someone who's done it. I'll give it if it doesn't work, let me know, and I'll try and work out the correct procedure in Unity. But I suspect it's going to be along those lines. But anyway, there is the graphic. Nothing amazing there. This is where I really love this tool. So if I literally drag it down to here where it says where it says ref manual block, and if I literally drop it there, that creates all the markup code for me to put that image in the reference manual as an inline graphic, which is very nice. if I drag it down and hold Alt, it will give me the markup to actually bring this image in, put it on the right hand side, and even leave a space for me to put text on the left hand side, so you can have, you know, half the page text, half the page graphics, and it will default to putting the image on the right. All you need to do if you want to swap them round is literally change it from left to right to left. Simple as that. But what I want to do is I want to make a whole entry on the reference manual that's basically just this artwork. So I'm literally going to just drag this, bring it down, and if you hold down Shift, and I have got it there in a minute, so I'll paste that into the classroom and let go. That will actually create a whole entry. So I will just pop that into the classroom text, like so. That just gives you the nice stuff. So what I'm obviously, by doing that, I've just broken the copy paste I've just done, so I'm going to have to drag it and drop it again. And if I go back to the Sublime, I can literally just paste that in there. So it's going to create an entry called cover in the ref manual chapter with a subchapter called chapter. The only reason I'm indenting them is it makes it easier later on because I can just fold it up. You don't have to do the indentation at all. You can literally leave it like that. It's just I find when I'm using the documents, I like to fold stuff up better. And if I literally just take that section there, copy it, go back to over here and click preview, there is your there's your start of your reference manual. As you can see at the moment, it's called ref manual with a subchapter called chapter, and we've got an entry called cover, and you've got the artwork in there, and that's all very nice, but it's a bit on the big side. So then you can come back over here and you can start playing around with these figures, but obviously you've got to sit there and work the aspect ratio out and everything else, and it's really painful. Don't do that. Literally paste it in here, hover your mouse over it, hold down the control key, and then using the mouse wheel you can resize the graphic as small or as big as you like. I'm going to say we want it that big. Then when you right mouse button on it, there's a get size option that gives you a value there. Come back to here, you paste that in there, you copy the whole section again, hit preview, and there you go. The graphic is now resized, and the only thing we need to do actually is if we give it a caption of cover, and then obviously we do it again and hit preview, you can now see there's your cover, and obviously you've got called it cover, and when you click on it, all the linking's been done automatically. Whatever you call it, the image here, because it's not really a cover. Whatever you call the image there is what it will be called in the exported module. It won't matter so much in the markup. The markup's literally just going to call it by the file name and the internal image ID that Fantasy Grounds has given it. So that's that. But what we're going to do is I don't want to have it in a chapter called ref manual. I'm going to call the whole thing Savage Thunderscape. I'm going to call this chapter credits. Not that there's normally any credits, but normally, as you can see, I'd create a credits one or a preface, and off we go. So that's fine. And then we'll just basically, again, this is just makes it neater and tidies it up. So now let's have a look. So now what we'll do is we'll have an introduction chapter. So if we're creating our own manual chapter, so 4 hashes marks reference manual, or what the entry type is. What's the actual term? Let's use the correct terminology. What does it actually call it? Class name, I think, isn't it? List class names, gear class names, reference manuals. So yeah, they're different. Yeah, they, for all intents and purposes, it's the class. So you've got a reference manual class, and then you've got your races and all these others. So 4 hashes is your class name. 3 hashes is basically marking a header or a title. So basically we've called that one cover, so we'll call this introduction, like so, and then the whole reference, this is one reference page on the in the final markup. So anything between those two square brackets will be the current page you're working on. That will be the title of the page. So if we go back to cover, you can see covers the title, it will show on the left hand side. It's also the title, it will show there, and everything else. The subchapter is the bit that's labeled chapter. When I redo it, it'll call that credit. And the main grey top level, which will minimize and expand when in the final version, is what they call the chapter. So what we need to do is we need to create a new chapter, and we're going to, there's no limit on how many chapters you have, but as a rule I tend to keep stuff mostly in the same chapter. And then we'll call this one, oops, introduction, it doesn't really matter. And then all I'm going to do is take this text here, put it in there, and if I copy that right now, it'll work. It won't be pretty, but it'll work. So there's your credits with your cover, there's your introduction, and you see there you've just got a huge mess of text. So this is actually where markup gets quite nice. The actual layout of the text here does not make the slightest bit of difference to how it comes out here, except with regard to line breaks. So if I literally take this text, the formatting's a bit funny. If I literally just take this text here up to there for the dark fall, and actually it's interesting, you notice Akil did this a lot when he was making the markup. So I'm literally going to leave that as if this is how it, it will come out if you copy and paste it from if you literally have to do it the slow way and copy and paste, you end up with this, and you spend hours, especially when you're doing the old XML, you have to sit there going, oh, and then that, and off, you know what I mean, to get it all nicely formatted. I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to leave it with all the line breaks and everything else. All I'm going to do is make sure that wherever I want a new paragraph, there's a blank line. And then you don't actually have to copy the whole document when you're doing previews. You can literally just paste a bit, click preview, and there you go. Now, if you remember, this top bit here, I copied out of there. So the page break, all the carriage returns that are from the original copy and paste are still there, but they don't show up in the reference manual. All it does is every time you put a blank line in, it starts up a new paragraph. It's very useful when you're copying and pasting stuff, so you don't have to spend hours making it look very pretty, with all the stuff. Problem is I tend to, but you don't need to do so. And basically that will work. As you can see there, there's the texts in there and it's all there. It's just a wall of text anyway. But if you started doing anything clever, like we want to put the let's put the inline tiger in, I suppose. Actually, it's a tiger. So where's that? We come back to here. I think actually he's already open. I saw him. So I'm just going to export him. I have no idea what he is, so I'm just going to. Actually, I know what I was going to use this one. Only because I don't know if it's just me or Windows 10 has this strange thing now that it basically always goes back to, it always forgets the folder you were just in. So hence the fact I cheat these days and have shortcuts and everything set up. So we'll call this guy, call him Tiger Guy. And then what I want to do is, I want to put him in this. I want to put him in this document. So there he is, Tiger Guy. I'm just literally going to take the ref manual and literally drag it down. As I'm just going to have it as a bit of text in line. Come back to here. I know it's not how it is in the thing, but let's just put him there. So you've got a nice run of text. We're going to have a graphic, and then we'll have the inline image. So we come back to here, hit preview, and it didn't happen. It's literally put the guy at the bottom and kept all the text at the top. That's because there is no formatting in here at the moment. It's literally just saying show a load of text. Oh, and then in another block, show the image. So if you actually want to control the order of things, you actually have to start creating text blocks and image blocks and everything else. So what we're going to do is quite straightforward. Let me remind myself which one I'm doing at the moment. I am just doing blocks text, that's fine. I'm literally going to go blocks text. So blocks, so it basically is create a new block, dot, asterisk, dot, and then the type of block. Now you will see, if you look at, as you can see, sometimes you'll see an underscore and sometimes you'll see an asterisk. Basically, if it's an asterisk, it's saying start, this is a new block. If it's an underscore, it's saying this is part of the block you started with the asterisk. So what I'm going to say here is I want to create a new block of text. 3 quotes is how you mark the start of a block of text. I'm just going to move all that over in one go. And then obviously, well, we've got the image and we've got the text. So if I copy that and press go now, we'll see what we'll get this time. I don't know, actually. It's wrong, but we'll see what happens. And basically what's actually happened is we've got the text and the image has vanished. And this is because what you do need to do is every time you open up a block, before you start a new block, you need to close a block. So with text, you start a block of text with 3 quotes, you end a block of text with 3 quotes. And we'll come down to here, we'll put a block of text in again, we'll close that block of text. I'm going to hit Alt Tab, and there you are. So now you've got your block of text, then you've got your tiger guy, and then you have your second block of text. But that's not how it is over here. But they've got the guy sort of on the right hand side with some of the text there. Now you can do columns of text, but you can't have 2 columns of text with the image in line. So there are limitations. But what we can do is we could have all the text and have him on the right. So what we're going to do is we'll take tiger guy, come down, we're holding down Alt so it goes to columns instead. And what we'll do is when we go back to here, instead of the block of text that was already there, I'm going to just get rid of all of that, paste this one in. And what it's saying is, okay, create an image block, and we're going to set up 2 columns next to this image block. So we're going to align them left and right, and it's going to put the image on the right. I'm not sure why it always does the image on the right, but as I say, if you want to change them over, you'll change it to right left. It's going to set the size of the image block. It's setting what the image is, what you're going to call it. Obviously the caption. If you don't want the caption, you can remove the line. I do that sometimes. And then it's created inside this image block, it's actually said, right, put some text in. So all we're going to do is if we put that text there, and then copy that. So now you get your block of text, then you get him, and then obviously, but the important thing to note is if you make him really, really small, it's not a good spot. It's not a good example with that guy. But then, hang on a second. Let's how can we make it a bit? How can I make that example work better? Let's do that, and let's obviously we're not going to end up with a really good working document at the end of all this. So there we go. I just want a wall of text. So when we come back to here and preview it again, now as you come down, you can see, right, there's the guy, there's the text, but the text keeps, the text doesn't flow back when the image stops. And that's because I've put all of this text in here inside this image block. So it's going to be a little tricky to work out. It's the secondary segment. So obviously what you tend to do is you'd come in here, using that control and the mouse wheel trick, you decide how big you want the image on the right or the left. So you work out, sometimes you might want it to finish on that paragraph. It doesn't really matter with this one. Then you'll work out where the text needs to flow back across again. And then what you'll do is you will come in here, and I said it was the second every settlement. We'll close off the image block that contains text, and we'll create a new text block. And that when we preview that, now we'll basically flow the text on down, and that is pretty much what you'll spend a lot of your time doing. You'll spend a lot of you'll get your text in, and you'll spend an awful long time making it pretty. And again, as I say, as you can see, you can decide that actually the text reads better a bit further over. So we'll just come back. We'll decide, I will have in that size, and go back up again, and we'll copy that, preview it one more time. Now you can see he's a lot smaller. And the only other thing I'm going to try out is let's just swap them round. And if I'm going too fast, please let me know. If we preview it now, as you can see now, he's on the other side. Any questions?
What was the first bit? I'm joking.
I hate you.
You lost me at hello. Is everyone having a good day?
I do. These tools that Akil made are really good, aren't they?
They are. They. Well, I mean, the best example I can give you, actually, as a quick aside. There it is. Interface 0 2.0 player guide. We'll load that in, and then interface 0 3.0 player guide. So interface 0 2.0 player guide. It wasn't reference manual. It was all old entries and everything like that. And obviously, everything's on its own article, and it's all linked in there, and everything else. I did that hand coding the XML. And it took me 13 months, and I lost the will to live. I really did. It was a big book. I can't remember how many pages it was, but it was all done by hand in XML. Interface 0, The Player's Guide to 2095, is an even bigger book, but it's all obviously I've done it all in markup and everything else. I did it using the markup. I did that in 30 days. So it does make a difference.
And it looks really good as well, yeah. Because I did that. I did that 5E Arcana of the Ancients thing.
Yeah.
And it took fucking months. Pardon my French.
Oh, I just unloaded the wrong thing. So, okay, now I'm not going to worry about doing most of this document because we don't really need it for demonstration purposes. Unloaded. There we go. There's the Gems guide. Okay. So, that's pretty much the basics on that. I'm just trying to think that's sort of the absolute basics. You'll spend most of your time just doing that. So let's come back to, that's the basic section. We've done the graphics. Headers. Yeah. So if we go back to the player's guide, if we come into, where's a good one? Here we are. Headers. So basically speaking, you can see you've got a nice header, and you've got a background to it. You can see some more, and off you go. And it looks nice. And when you come down to the edges, I know you've all seen them; they're all there. So what we've got here is we've got reference manual headers, as I like to think of them, and the old header text, which was the control to in the story. So let's do a bit of that. So we'll come down.
This is another reason why you don't want the Savage Worlds thing in Unity. It messes up their headers.
Does it really?
Yeah. Because I posted loads of bug reports, and I got all that's because of this. That's because, and it all comes back to that. Yeah. Okay. Turn it off, and you can still make the stuff. It just when it's, you can use it to make stuff, but when it's running, it interferes with stuff as well. It messes stuff up.
Yeah. So, but then if you're if you're doing it strictly right, you don't you would have dedicated campaigns for the enhanced library, and you wouldn't have that running. I wouldn't have that running when you're running a game. SW Maker. Now I don't know if that does muck up with Unity, but I certainly
No, it works beautifully in Uni.
I certainly leave that running when I'm running games because it's very useful sometimes. Anyway, header. So if we come back to here, we're going to pop that header in there. I'm going to go with it header. We're going to call it header. We'll make this one, let's make it picture. And then after we've done the header, we'll put some text in, nice and straightforward. We'll copy that, come back to here and hit preview. And this is a header. So, and obviously, if I change that to picture, and obviously one of the other one, that one there I happen to know is Suede. It's unique to the Savage Worlds rule set, but it's called Suede. Now, unless I've closed the link, which I blimmin' well have, but I made a nice link to it so I could follow it. If you go to the Fantasy Grounds Wiki section on reference manuals, you will come down here and you will find that there's a bunch of frames. There's sidebar, text 1, text 2, text 3, text 4, text 5, book, page, picture, pink, blue, brown and green. All of those are frames that you can use, and you can use all of those as frames around your headers. All of those should work. Text 5 I use quite a lot when I'm doing the manuals. So if we come back to down to here, instead of having it as picture, we have it as text 5, and then copy it and go preview and scroll it down, as you can see. So those that link there, I will put that into the chat now. So as I say, all of those frames you can use as header frames. You can create your own, and if you wanted to really, if it's outside the scope of this particular thing, but what if we go to, actually we did it in Deadlands Weird West. If we go into the theme, graphics, frames, so in the Deadlands Weird West extension, if you've got that running, the edge background is a different color and the text is a different color, and it is as simple as it's refblock_Suede or refblock_picture. Obviously, I'm not going to go into making extensions today, but if you know how to make extensions, or you do want to change your color schemes and you want to tweak these, that's just to show you can do it. So the names there usually correspond, and I think if we go down to I think you can still get this out of the core RPG. What I did to get the core RPG one was I literally went and found the .pack file, renamed it to .zip, and then extracted it. And if we come into frames, we should see quite a few red blocks, I believe. Yeah, there we go. There they all are. Yeah, so you got your ref block blue, so literally speaking, you can, if you want to, create your own. As I say, it's outside the scope of today, but just give you the idea, and obviously that will correspond with the text you put in over which you put here, so that could be text 5 or pink. I've never done pink, but anyway. So that's pretty much the text headers, and that pretty much covers the how you do the documents. There is more, but I'm fairly certain the Eberron will probably be a better indication. Again, by all means, or if you can always drop me a question on the forums and stuff. Sorry, I just noticed something and got distracted. It doesn't matter to now, so I'll read that later. I can't think if there's any other major ones to go with. Inline images, we've done sidebars. Sidebars, actually, yeah, that would be the one. Sidebars. So you want to put a block of text around a frame. Just trying to think. There's got to be an example of one. Where's it? Dedicated to 1,000 game customers. What's that in? Is that in the? That's in the credits. So that must be in Savage Worlds reference manual, preface, credits. There. So that is actually the sidebar graphic. So that is literally putting a frame around a block of text. So as you can see, it's quite straightforward. You close off your text block. You're going to create a new block with blocks dot asterisk dot frame sidebar. Again, this goes back to these frames here. We don't have to use sidebar. Let's use book instead. Okay, so we're saying create a new block and frame it, and then inside this frame we're going to put some text. So that's where the underscore comes in. If you use a star, what would actually happen is it would put the block of text in its own thing, and the frame will probably sit there empty actually. If we go back to here, hit preview now and come down, there's your header, and now you can see there's your block of text in the frame. Limitations of frames and stuff is you can't have an image and a frame side by side. Likewise, you can't have two images side by side. The only way that you can do that, I've found, is you cheat. You literally take the two images and make them into one image so they're side by side, if that makes sense. That's about the only thing you can do. The only other one I can think of is a little more complicated, is the graphical icons. I know I've been using them a lot. Elves. Yeah, I say it's a little more complicated. I'm not even sure where you find out that it's bulletin or wildcard, so I might not worry too much about those. If they're in, by all means, if you want them, ask. I'll see if I can find out some more information about it, where you find out those file names. But literally, that's what if you really want to sort of insert a graphic there, which you can do for the wildcards. I do that a fair bit, not that way in the reference manual. So you can, so you can literally do a wildcard icon next to the monster name. It's literally the same thing. You are literally creating a block type with an icon. You're going to line it right and left. You're deciding how big the icon is, what the actual icon is, and then the text would be the title. So if we literally just take that and bring it over here, and then we'll copy that. I would classify this one, but not advanced, it's just a little more on the tricky side. So if we come down here, yeah, there you see you've got the little red bullet point, which is, and then the text, and obviously off it goes. That is pretty much how you basically put pages together in reference manual. Obviously, if you want to create the next section, it's literally a case of, again, don't need the line, but I always put one in, title, and I'm just going to come back up here and cheat and take that. What I will do, it won't be very pretty if I've lost it now, introduction, it won't be pretty, but if I literally just take the rest of that, go down to the bottom like that, copy that, and press preview. That, as you can see now, we've got an introduction and we've got a title. Now the title is obviously the rest of the text, but that's pretty much the idea. And obviously you'll keep going. If you want to create separate chapters, it's, as I say, it's literally a case of coming up there. So if we, instead of calling this one chapter, we'll call it Savage Thunderscape 2, chapter 2 as it were. We come back here. You can see now it's created a separate chapter, and they won't actually fold up here. But if we actually export it as a module, which I'll just do the shortcut for now, but I'll explain in a minute. Now you can see oh, they don't fold up anymore. They used to, but the sub levels do. But anyway, so that's the last thing I will go over now. Is I always click that button. So you've got your document. Obviously, it would look a lot. It'll look a lot better than this one. So far, all I've been doing is I've been copying and pasting and clicking preview. It's very useful, the preview, because as you can see there, you can see what's going on. You can dynamically resize images. You can tweak stuff. What it doesn't do, let's take this one. What it doesn't do, if you hit preview, this will give me no end of errors because I don't have any of the images. It's interesting actually, because that's called cover. It matches up. What it won't do, if we come down to the edge lists, for example, is I've put in, that's what I forgot to do, inline index links. So I'll do one of those quick, but we'll do those when we come back to edges. So these are links off to other parts of the document, or index links. The preview mode, it won't show those off. So when you're happy with your document, or you want to test linking and everything, then what you're going to do is you're going to copy your entire document into your clipboard memory. Instead of clicking preview, it's a console command called import lib. And hit return, and it will actually do the magic and create a module. Well, not an actual module, it's still in your DB, but for all intents and purposes, it will create a whole module. And if there was extra stuff there, like all the races and everything else, which we'll do in a minute, they'll be added in there. And then you can open it up and you can see the actual document. The preview version will, if I do the preview version will always start at the top, unless you keep going back to the same area, then it will remember where you were last. But if you make any changes, and it will always have it unfolded, whereas the final version, it will all be packed up. And then if you wanted to export that to actually test it somewhere else, if you click the little brown button there, you get these extra icons. You click that button there, which would export the library module. It will pop up with the export library module. There's the file name, there's the thumbnail, and there's the details you've already all put in. So you can fill them in manually there, but if you put them in the document at the top here, it saves you having to type it every time. And you'd click export, and it would actually create, where's my fantasy grounds? Modules. And it will actually create a mod file in your fantasy grounds folder. And you can see that's why I use the underscores, because my modules folder is a bit on the full side. And then you can obviously load up a different fantasy grounds campaign. You can actually restart this one and load it in, but things get interesting sometimes when you do that. That said, there are times when you want to do it, but that's by the by. What I want to do now is let's get an edge in. So if we come back down to here, so what we're going to do now is that's basically a very messy. I'm going to get rid of most of this text because it just doesn't make life easier for us. Let's keep the blocks. Actually, that'd be nice. I've just realised that will show me one more thing. So, there, do you remember when we did that search and replace earlier for the bold text? If we come back to here and hit preview, you can see they're bolded. They're not nicely formatted. Bullet points, they're there, but again, this is where you start getting some interesting issues with the encoding. So rather than actually using the pretty graphic bullet points, just use 2 minuses. That's the markdown for a bullet point. I could just done a copy with paste, thinking about it, but anyway. And then if we do that again now, copy and preview it, they're nicely bullet pointed. So that's nice. So what we'll do now is we'll do. So what we got there is a complete, very tiny, but a complete reference manual. Well, we'll just pretend it is anyway. And if I tab that over, then it will nicely fold up. And then again, as I say, the convention I use is if between sections I'll use dashes, between at the start and the end of the reference manual I'll use equal signs, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to say, right, I'm going to create an edge. We've got this arbiter professional edge here, so 4 hashes specify we're creating a new class. If we go to the library importer help and scroll down a bit, we can see here that under the list class names, if you're doing an edge, you want to create it, it's called edges. So we'll say edges, and then what we're going to call it, well, we're going to call this new edges, because these are going to be additional edges to the standard. We can actually put some text in here as well. And then I'm going to create the first edge. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. The way I recommend you start, and then once you learn what you're doing, the way that can be quicker. So if we come into here, we come into it, we come in edges, we'll create a nice new edge. We're going to call it arbiter. It's a professional edge. It's got requirements. And let's make it wider, because then you know if the carriage return's working properly. Whoops, there. I've gone. I know there's meant to be another break in there somewhere, but I can't. There, arbiter swear. Notes. Well, it doesn't. But let's say, for argument's sake, this when you take this edge, you get tougher. So if you're just creating custom edges, you know, for just for any use for individual use or anything else, you could just do that. There's an edge, and obviously it's in characterized. You can just add it to a character. If you're using the swell, what you can do is after you've completed the edge, you come down and drop it on record, and that will create all the markup for an edge. And all you have to do is come over here and paste that in. You don't actually need to have the XML code there for the markup. It doesn't matter if it's there. The enhanced reference library will pick it up, and when you come back to here, we'll minimize that for now. You'll hit preview, and you'll basically doesn't do anything. You get the preview of the markup, but obviously that doesn't help you when you're seeing anything outside the reference manual. Preview will only do the reference manual. So that's where the import lib comes in. Hence the fact I've set them up down here. Something that Akhil's recommended not so long ago was the use of flushing the database before you import the lib, just in case there's any interesting rubbish data. So I've got 2 shortcuts set up. So flush db and then import lib. I click import lib. There's our reference manual from before. But now we've got a new one, a new entry called new edges, and when you click on that, it opens up a nice new edges. You can see there's the text I added, and there is the edge. And when you export that later on, that will be exported as an edge, and it will show up in its own section over here, but it won't do that until you export it. So that's all. That's nice and straightforward, but as I say, that's the way I'd recommend doing them when you're learning. But also the fact is, once you've created one edge, you've got a lot of the text you need. So you can, if you want to, oh damn it, do it manually. So extended firepower. I'm just going to prerequisites are the requirements. 2 colons. There. And then some text. I'm not going to put the whole text in, that will suffice. Description is the one that basically is where you technically put the effects that function in. So if your edge doesn't have it, you don't need it. So what we'll do is we'll copy that, we'll come back to here, we'll flush the database, we'll do an import, and you can see, oh, I've got 2 copies now. But we go to new edges on the second one, you can see there's a second edge there. So once you've got used to the code, and there's a few more you can use, Akil does like a few more, and again this you will find under the notes there the markup, and also in the Eberron you'll find the stuff. Well, that's my one, that won't help. That's what's missing. I knew there was something missing. Again, doesn't really matter. I don't know why it doesn't import it. But the type is obviously the type of edge. Doesn't make the slightest bit of difference. Doesn't make the slightest bit of difference here. All the edges are linked together. But when you export it and it becomes an actual module, when you click by type, as long as you've named them correctly, they will get added to the right entries under here. Likewise, if you want to, you can create new types. So if we want to call this one, I don't know what a fluffy edge, but it is. Again, that will create a new entry by type in here when it comes to it. Hindrances work the same way. So if we literally go 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't spell today. Hindrances. New hindrances. And to the point you can actually literally, functionally speaking, hindrances and edges are the same. All I'm going to do is change the name of that. Copy that, delete that one just because it gets neater that way, import it, and now we've got some hindrances. So that's that. And as I say, items work the same way. I won't worry too much. I'm not going to create one manually, so if I literally drag the anti-personnel mine down, this is the one I never remember. I think it's mundane gear.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, mundane item. That's it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mundane item. New gear. The only thing with items is very important, and that's the cat name. Catches me out so many times when you forget that. So if I do it right now without it, delete that, flush, import, new gear. Now, and this is why it catches me out, because obviously that's come up there, but sometimes you find when you export it, and especially if you have more than one category, it doesn't work. So let's see if I can actually make it not work. I have no idea what an anti-personnel arm is, but anyway, you know what I mean. Cyber gears. Copy. It's probably going to work because I'm trying to make it not work. Flush, import lib. Yeah, it's just going to work now. But basically, I think, and this is why it used to catch me out, when you basically you create you'll create something here, and they're both technically the same class, but you giving them different categories and gear names because you want them in different entries and stuff like that. It works beautifully here, but when you load it into the module and you load it into Fantasy Grounds, what I find is you click on it and it's empty, and that's literally because you do have to specify a category name for what you're using, and that needs to match the category of items you're making. So if let's have a look.
Yeah, I had that exact problem when I was doing the Ghostbusters fan-made conversion.
Yeah.
And it was Savage Dosfuck that pointed out. He said he looked at my code and said, "You know what? You need to put cat name here." Because when I would just get an empty field, I'd get a table of nothing for all the gear I just thought I imported that worked in the preview, but didn't work in the import.
Yeah, so here we go. Here, just to show it off here. So here's your mundane items, common gear, and this is from Suede, obviously, and with a cat name of common gear. So when you come into here, you'll see every item here's got a cat name of common gear. As I say, that name is anything you like. It's not a set code or anything like that. You can call it anything, but you have to be consistent. The other thing I would state is, I do believe that when you manually create a custom item, you can put the group name in. I can't spell group today. You can put the non-ID, you can put the notes in, you can put the cost in, you can put the availability in, you can put some text in, and then you drag it down to the record and bring it back here. The cat name is always... Actually, it's interesting. Not so long ago, it wouldn't even put the cat name entry in, but the cat name there's nowhere inside Fantasy Grounds to set the cat name, so you will have to manually set it if you do it that way. But so if we go down to here, yeah, you can see common gear, which is where we were before, and then we go down a bit more. Ammunition, he's given the cat name ammunition. So it's a little gotcha. It will work beautifully well in the preview, but it won't work in the actual module. So import lib. There you are. So on the cyber gear, we should have two now. We've got the. So that's that. And to be honest, the hindrances, edges, special abilities, powers, quests, races, and all the skills, all the others literally work the same way. I would say literally manually create them. You would create an entry for them based on the class names here, and you'll put them in. So if we go up to... no, it's not up, it's down. So here we go. So here we are. So here's the races. Let's call them ancestries, and that is literally the race entries. There's all the hindrances. So it's literally 4 hashes, class name, and then whatever you want to call them. If we go down a bit more, you've got the edges, which is as far as I've got. But as I say, once you know what you're doing, you can key them in by hand. But to begin with, I would recommend that you literally create the items here. As I say, normally you'll find I'll just create a couple, and after that I'm just copying and pasting. So that brings us to using SW Maker, really. Any questions on that, by all means, just shout out anytime, don't forget. If I've gone too fast, please let me know.
Did you do the links? Is that the other one?
Oh, links. Thank you for reminding me. Links. Okay, so thank you. Okay, so we've created links. So we've got an arbiter edge. Now this is where I would recommend. Now Notepad++ has that lovely clone view option, which I can't remember where it is now. It's right mouse button, clone to another view. This is a godsend when you're starting doing links and stuff, so you've got the same thing in both places. And I have to admit, one thing I really like about Notepad++ that doesn't happen in Sublime is in Notepad++ you can drag an entry from one window to another window, and it doesn't delete it from the other window. I mean, you could argue that's possibly not what you're trying to do. In Sublime, if you're doing that, it will actually move it. It will literally cut it from one window and place it in the other. In Sublime, to do the same thing, it's literally new view into file, and I'll move that to over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this one nicely down here for the bottom part of the for all the links. So if I come to here, I'm going to go create a nice new reference page, and we'll call this one links. It's in the chapter links with a sub chapter. I can't spell links, and it's just going to be a straightforward block of text. Okay, so what we're going to have here is we might have a header for the arbiter. We might have a header for the arbiter. This is how it's usually done with the edges. We'll take some of the text here, and then we'll create a link to it. So we'll go. So the way you do. I had this lady. I don't know what's going on with this one. It's only started today. There we go. So, 2 curly brackets, question mark at is the code for a link. Then what you're going to do is say what section to get it from, and that's, in this case, this is the label you've created. So I want to link to the arbiter edge, so I'm going to say go to new edges, and then take the arbiter entry, like so. And then if we copy and paste that and preview it, what did I do wrong there? I must have done something wrong. Yeah, I see there's a typo. Preview it. There's the link, and like I said, the link is there, but it doesn't work in preview mode. So what I'll have to do is, if I do flash import and then come in to links, there's the link to the arbiter edge. That is basically, that is as simple as that. Now, if you want to link to something else, say I want to reference. Let's have a look. Let's go to the reference manual. I want to link to the aim rule from another module. I just want to have in the middle of something I'm saying is when aiming do this, and obviously they'll normally say refer to book such and such, page such and such. Obviously you can't really do that in a reference manual, so all you have to do here is literally drag the link down to the link entry, and it will create the link entry for you. If I come back to here and I'll say inside the same block of text, link to aim SWED rulebook, and just paste that in.
Those link entries are automatically copied to the clipboard, aren't they?
Yes, automatically copied to the clipboard. So I'll delete that, flush that, import that, come back to here, links, I forgot where I put it, click on aim, and that opens up a link to an external module, and that is very useful. So obviously if you're creating a player's guide and a GM's guide or something else, what you would end up doing is you'd obviously, and you want to link to it, is you would go through the whole rigmarole of exporting this module and then close down Fantasy Grounds, reload Fantasy Grounds, because it won't actually read that as a new module until you exit Fantasy Grounds, come back in. But then you can come down to your modules list, you can load that module in that you finished creating, and then start your next module that links back to that one. I don't recommend, what you can do it if you want to link to itself, but that's not the best way to do that. If I want to create a link, I just deleted the bloody entry, didn't I? Okay. I want to create a link in links that takes us back to the introduction. You can go through you can export it, load it as a module, drag the link down to here, and paste it in. What you can't do is what I've just done there, which is copy this link down to there and then paste that in. It will work as long as you've got this campaign loaded, but it won't work for anything else. What you have to do then is, and this is where it becomes important, it's what you've called the reference manual if you want to link to the current reference manual. So I'm going to come back to here. I'm going to open up. I see, I don't know what's going on with that. Something Sublime started doing today. So now I'm saying, right, in the current reference manual, when you have to name it, do it by name, go to introduction. And then when I copy that, import it now. And when this doesn't, and now click on introduction, it takes you back to the introduction. As I say, that if I do that link, that will work, or at least again appear to work. If I come back to here and go to here and click on that introduction. But what that's actually linking to, it's not actually linking to the reference manual, because when you're creating this entry, until you export this module, it's actually creating entries inside the XML file for your campaign. So that second link I just clicked on here is actually a link to a entry in this campaign. So it will only work while this campaign's running, whereas the link we created by referencing the reference manual will basically be updated by Fancy Grounds when it exports it to create a permanent link. So that's that. The only other thing to say is what you can do and it does help to actually do it. That's where the colouring comes in handy. What you can actually do is inside the link, if you put 2 colons, anything after that colon becomes the label for the link. So at the moment, if we go to links, you can see at the moment it actually just says arbiter, because that's what what it's actually linking to is. But if I now come back to links again now, you can now see that although it still goes to the arbiter edge, I've changed the label. You tend to use that a lot when you're doing NPCs, and it does mean you can almost you can actually cheat to a degree, because you can load up an NPC that's an alligator crocodile, for argument's sake. Let's actually do that. So if we create an NPC link there, as you can see at the moment it goes to alligator crocodile, but I don't want it to be called that. I want it to be called Big Owl. And as I say, once you start playing with links, you spend more time having to play, import, export. But now you see there's Big Owl, but when you click on it, it'll still open up the alligator crocodile. But as you can see, you can change the link. So the title there. So that brings us on. Thank you for reminding me that I hadn't mentioned links to the SW Maker. So what I'm going to do there. Now there was a specific one I wanted to use because it did interesting things. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to take the K-Knight Swarmer Bombardier Beetle. I'm going to go into NPCs. Now because I've got the SW Maker open, the Make NPC button's there. I click on that and there's an NPC built. And it looks good. You come over here, you can see there's the description on the traits. You can see the traits are there, all the stats for how you want it. Go to the combat tab. It always defaults to blood and sets the space and reach. You can see the acid spray is a cone template, which it just happens to basically there's no trait associated with that, so it's literally the acid spray. And then we'll literally just drag that NPC down to record. It's obviously automatically put it into the clipboard. We'll come down to here. We'll create a nice new entry. So 4 hashes, NPCs is the class name. The label, we'll call this monsters. And then I'll just paste that NPC in. And you can see NPCs are a bit on the more complicated side. And then we'll copy that. We'll come back to here. And again, because obviously it's external to the reference manual, now you can see there's monsters and there's your bombardier beetle swarm. Nice and straightforward. Then, okay, so I want to do the same with the metal golem. So I'm going to take the whole metal golem in. I'm going to copy him. I'm going to go to NPCs. I'm going to click Make NPC. There's our lovely metal golem, but that's wrong. So metal skin can be fitted on its so that's just, if you look at that, it's just not coming right. So this does happen sometimes with the formatting, and certain PDFs do break things. The trick I found is, unfortunately, that is when you work out what's going wrong, paste it into a text file. And this is the thing. I haven't worked out how SW Maker does it or why it does it this way. But if you copy from a PDF and paste in, assuming it works without any problems, no problems at all. The second you copy it into a text file, these bullet points will muck it up big time. Don't know why, they just do. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in here. I'm going to just, you don't have to do this, but I find sometimes it makes life easier. So we've got that with nice 2 paragraphs. We've got the special abilities. Now we're going to copy it out of here, put it back into the Make NPC, and it's still. And we got the fists and we got the metal skin. But either I missed out the construct, or it didn't pick it up. Oh, yep, I know why as well. Colon. Let's try that again. Even I hadn't picked up on that last time. Might not work without text. No, it might need to have the text behind it. I mean, actually, to be honest with that one, I'd probably just fix it manually. Let's see if that works. Yeah, there we go. And hopefully now it's linked. That it's recognised because we've loaded the modules in. It's gone through all the edges. It's got loaded all the edges. It's got loaded all the hindrances and everything else, and it went and it found that there is a special ability called construct. It's matched it, it's linked it, and injected it into the NPC. For the fists and the metal skin, it couldn't find entries in any of the hindrances or anything else, so it's created a custom entry for that creature. And then again, as I say, now it's looking nice and we're happy with it, and we go to the main tab, we can see we've got 2 paragraphs because I manually put the line in. We can come in here. Maybe it should leak oil when it's destroyed instead. Oh, let's make it a wild card as well. And that was the one thing I forgot to mention. If you want to make something a wild card, you can either do it manually or put a question mark in front of the creature. And the other thing I will do is this, I can't remember if it's hashes. I think this is hashes. I think it needs to be at least 12 hashes. What you can do you can have more than one, bearing in mind the limitation of that limitation. So if we do that and do a copy now, what hopefully will happen is we'll get 2 NPCs. And there you go. So, and it's picked up that because we put the question mark in front, it's picked up that the metal golem's a wild card. There's no question mark in front of the swarmer bombardier beetle, so it hasn't made that a wild card. And as I say, I think it's a minimum of 12 hashes. As long as you make sure there's a minimum of 12 hashes between each NPC, you can bulk import. That said, I do find half the time you'll that's when it will always go wrong and you won't notice. But if we dark vision isn't a standard ability, so it didn't link it. So, but that's basically the NPCs in. I was doing the metal golem, so we'll put him down there, and off he goes. And that, as I say, the SW Maker is that straightforward really, so there's not much to say about it. And obviously once you paste him in there, you can see we can close that down. So I know Akil does actually sit here and code his NPCs by hand these days, because if you know what you're doing, it's faster. But I have to admit, I still use SW Maker for NPCs. But that's pretty much, I think, everything I wanted to cover. That's sort of enough to get you going, if that makes sense. There are some advanced tricks, but they're a little more convoluted and not worth worrying about to begin with. But what you can do with NPCs, I'll save that for another day. Actually, I'll make a separate video online for that one, because it's a little more convoluted and I can't easily show it. But there is a way to basically, when you're to take a monster from another module, and basically literally by I just can't remember how to do it off the top of my head, the right terminology, but you would literally, and that would be the link to NPC, and as I say, I'll do it another day, and then it lets you rename it, and but then you can actually overwrite stuff, so you can actually take out entries and replace things, so you don't have to sit there and copy and paste the whole NPC. But as I say, that I'll make a dedicated video on that one, or if there's enough interest, we'll make that the advanced course. But I don't want to give away all my secrets today.
Well, thank you for giving some of them.
So that went on considerably longer than I expected, but oh, yep, thank you for the link to my YouTube channel. I hope you found that useful. Are there any questions, comments, criticisms, hatred, fan mail, anything?
Oh, you want criticisms?
I didn't know about the question mark. I've been using NPC Maker, but that question, I just go in and tell it. It was
yes,
after the fact.
Well, yeah, as I say, if you've got them in a text file, you can do it. But obviously, if you're taking from a PDF, yeah, you do it manually. That said, the other trick, actually, one more trick I'll give you, actually. The other way to do it is, all you have to do is add that wildcard, because the amount of times I've put them into markup and then forgotten their wildcards. You literally just come in here and just add at wildcard : ;:#1. That will make an NPC a wildcard. So if we literally take that for now, come up to the Bombardier Beetle, and again, you don't have to put them in alphabetical order. It's just it's just a bit neat that way. Yeah, that should go. If we put that there, copy that, delete that, just because it starts getting too complicated otherwise. That might not have worked that far. Yep, there. See now, he's a wild card. I've got so many console errors, it's unbelievable at the moment. But that's by the by. Think about it. Yeah, so as I say, when you export the module, let's actually export it. And then if we go to modules, what you can do, if you want to fiddle around with it more, if you rename it to a zip file, you can then just make it into a folder in your modules, and it will still be readable. If you're using the markup, that's not so useful, but if you end up wanting to edit the XML afterwards, you can go that route. I personally don't. I make the changes in the markup these days and recompile. But as you can see, what you get in the module is you'll get your definition file, your db.xml, and it will insert all the images you've linked. So that can be useful. You can have if you could have more images in here than that end up in the module. It's only the images that you've actually put into the reference manual section, if that makes sense, that will get exported with the module when it goes, which is very useful when you're doing things like a player's guide and a GM's guide. I just tend to put them in the same campaign, and because sometimes you'll find they'll use the same picture in both. both books or something like that, and so you can literally just keep relinking them and then off you go. But that's pretty much the only other thing I've got. If there's any other questions, please let me know now, because I think I've run out of things to talk about.
Well, that's an awful lot to chew on for a while. That'll keep me busy.
I have I do believe that Fantasy Grounds College is well, I did say they could record it. I don't know if they did or didn't. That's by the by. I have got this streaming right now to Twitch, and it's also going to my YouTube channel, which the link's there, so you can watch this back at any time. Twitch, it will fall off eventually, but YouTube, it should stay there forever. And as I say, any questions? I'm now on the Fantasy Grounds College Discord, so I did notice they do have a Savage World section there, so obviously you can ask away there. Obviously also you can always ask on Savage Worlds in Discord. You can ask in the Savage Worlds forums, and so yeah, you can post a question on my YouTube. As long as you get hold of me and ask a question, I'll do my darndest to answer it. The only other things I'm going to say is, for a bit of self-plugging, I've got 3 FG cons happening. When is it? Next weekend. Starts on I think it starts technically Thursday, the 15th of April, depending on your time zones, and finishes on the Monday. I am running a game of Savage Pathfinder, not Pathfinder for Savage Worlds, I hasten to add, on the 18th of April at 2 p.m. There are 3 slots available at this time, so if you guys fancy playing the not official version of Pathfinder, this was my own homebrew I made a few years back. It's the last time I run it, because obviously the real ones come out now. You're more than welcome to sign up for that, and otherwise, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Very informative.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. And as I say, any questions, just drop me a line anytime. Thank you. Well,
That was great. I wonder, I'm going to be a little bold and ask if you can maybe run that class again. Not necessarily even within this month, but in the future. I'd like to see, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who would like to see more Savage Worlds classes being run. I'm going to try and start running more. I'm getting some curriculum put together, but anything you would like to teach people, I'm sure we can accommodate you.
okay, I will bear that in mind.